All right, and thank y'all again so much for joining us this morning for today's webinar. I hope everyone's Monday is off to a good start. My name is Katie Griffin, and I am with Int Credit Union. I work on our community education team, which means I get to hang out in the community and do these financial wellness classes. And I love getting to do this and love getting to spend time with y'all. So thank you again so much for joining us today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so for today's class, I've got a couple different topics that we are going to get into today. But if you would like to join us, you can either scan that QR code there or go to menti.com and type in that 7-digit code. By doing that, you'll be able to view the slides on your phone if you would like to be able to do that. We also have just one or two engagement questions that you would be able to answer by joining us through Menti. So if you'd like to do that, go right on ahead. But if you don't, of course, that's totally fine as well. All right, so to kick off class today, we just want to get an idea of kind of where everyone is starting today. So through Menti, you can slide the bar on each of these three statements to indicate your level of confidence with each statement. So I know the 4 spending cycles, I know the various ways to improve cash flow, and I know the different debt repayment strategies. So while you have that, if you have it up on your phone, and then if you'll go ahead and throw some answers in there. But if you didn't already guess from that, some of our main takeaways from class today are going to be money beliefs and behavior. So what are those kind of internal things that are impacting how we're spending? We're going to look at navigating financial situations. And then a good chunk of class today is going to be talking about different debt repayment options. All right, so let's start off with those money beliefs. So our money beliefs, they are kind of these like subconscious like things that we've like learned throughout our life. So a lot of these are things that we learned while we were kids. You know, we're super impressionable at a younger age, and we see how the adults in our life are making different financial decisions, and that has an impact on us. You know, kind of whether we realize it or not. A particular money belief for myself was when I was a kid. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and she put everything on her credit card. Everything, like any kind of purchase, she made it with a credit card, and like she had just like a stack of credit cards in her wallet. I'll never forget that. And so I saw her making purchases with these cards, but no one explained to me that you have to actually like pay for all of that stuff, right? So I thought, oh, cool, you can just, buy whatever you want, because you got a credit card, you can put it on. And there's no consequences or anything like that. So that made an impression on me. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older and learned like how credit cards actually work. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get the budget for these things and be able to pay it off, or else it can turn into a lot of debt. So there, a lot of it we kind of learn as we're younger, and they might be things that are passed through, generation to generation. But as I said, they're often unconscious. So a lot of times we have these different money beliefs that are impacting our spending, and we don't even kind of realize it. So taking the time to just reflect, and if you find yourself making certain decisions with money or have certain spending habits, take that time to ask yourself, like, okay, like, where is this stemming from? Like, where are these thoughts stemming from? And just do that homework to kind of work backwards through these decisions that you're making. And you might be able to uncover, some different things that you maybe didn't realize were having an impact. But these money beliefs, there might be some truth to them, and they might not be. They could be positive or they could be negative. But they do directly impact how we handle our finances. So if we notice that we may have some kind of money beliefs and behaviors that are on the more negative side, there are some things that we can do. First is just to realize when they happen. That's the biggest one, just acknowledging that. And like I said, that kind of doing that reflection work can help with recognizing these different things. And then take time before making decisions. So if it's a purchase that doesn't need to be made immediately, and it can take some time, like take 24 hours and sleep on it. That can really make a difference with our purchases. After you sleep on it, have a little more time, so it's not so much of an impulse buy. You might find that you actually don't need to spend your money on this thing, or you might realize, hey, this is actually really important to me, something that I need and want to do. Same thing goes with online shopping. So it's whether shopping in a store or online shopping. I have a friend that really enjoys online shopping, but she will leave something in her cart for 30 days, which is pretty extreme. So not saying that you need to quite go to that extreme, before with taking time for those decisions. But if you can do 24 hours, then that can help as well. Checking your finances on a regular basis can also be super helpful. So if we just are very aware of what our budget looks like and what we have to work with, that can help us with making decisions. So if I have a purchase that I would like to make, but if I'm regularly checking my budget and I know what I have to work with, then I can either say, okay, I want to make this purchase, but I really don't have room in my budget for it right now. And this could put me in a little bit of debt for the next couple months. So I'm going to resist and not make the purchase. Or it can help us with the decision of, yes, I know that I had made room in my budget for this. I can make this purchase. It's not going to have any negative consequences. I can do this and everything will be okay. So just knowing what you're working with can help with that. Setting SMART goals can also be helpful. So SMART is an acronym, stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So this is a strategy to just get really specific with your goals and make it something that's realistic, something that you know that you can achieve, and then have a deadline. Say, I want to save $1,000 over the next year. Okay, so you're being specific. It's you have a time, like you're know like what your deadline is, kind of what your goal is, and then you can figure out, okay, what does that look like? How much do I need to save every month to be able to hit that goal? And hopefully that would be like a realistic. And if it's not realistic, then make some adjustments to the goal so that it is something that you know that you can attain, because that's going to be a lot more motivating. Having a realistic spending plan, speaking of being realistic, just don't like know what you have to work with. Again, like back to that budget piece, know what you have as far as like your income goes, your expenses go, and be realistic with what you are spending your money on, because otherwise it can get like a little bit of frustrating. And then just know your resources. We have a lot of resources on int.com in our education center that you can check out. All right, so when it comes to our spending, we have what is known as cash flow. So cash flow is just a super simple equation. No need to make it complicated. It's literally just how much do we have coming in, and then how much do we have going out. So it's just our income minus our expenses. And if our cash flow is maybe not as positive as we want it to be, right? Like hopefully cash flow is a positive number. Hopefully we have more income than we have expenses. But if our cash flow is not as positive as we would like, or if there's a chance that it is negative, which means we have more expenses than we have of income, then there are two things that we can do. The two ways that we can improve our cash flow are by decreasing our expenses or by increasing our income. So let's look at some examples for both of those. So when it comes to decreasing expenses, shopping is a really big area for that. So there's a lot of different areas we can decrease expenses, but a big chunk of our budget tends to be taken up with different shopping, specifically with food and with the grocery store. So be aware of store tactics. So, stores want to make money, right? They want to make a profit, want us to spend money when we're out there. So be aware of different tactics that they have in place that encourage us to spend more. So different things like the layout of the store, or where things are placed, like on the shelves. So typically things that are eye level is what they want us to buy, and the less expensive items might be a little bit lower, kind of have to bend down and look for those, but they are there. Different things like the music that's playing that can impact kind of our shopping habits. And if kind of like upbeat music is playing, that might make us, feel like we're having a good time and hang out in the store a little bit longer. Studies have actually shown that when classical music is being played, it actually causes folks to buy more expensive items, right? Because we're feeling a little fancy listening to the classical music. So there's a lot of different store tactics, just being aware of those. And if you see them, kind of happening in real time in different stores, being aware of them and know, like, okay, like I know what's happening here, like, and I'm gonna kind of, stick to my plan that I had going into the store. And having a plan, like, is one of those things up there that's so, so important. Have a plan, know what you're going into the store to get, have a list. My list like saved my life. So before I go into any store, I make my list. I know exactly what it is that I am going in there to get. I know what my purpose is for going shopping. And I stick to it as best as I can. That kind of helps avoid any impulse purchases or spending money on things that I wasn't planning on spending on. And lastly, that one, shop online and generic, that can help a lot as well. So shopping online kind of takes away the pressure of those different store tactics, right? Because we're not even walking around the store and being, tempted by different things. And also give generic a try. So generic items are often just as good, sometimes even better than our name brand things. And the main difference between name brand and generic is just the amount of money they spent on marketing. So with name brand things, they spent a lot of money on commercials and advertisements and just kind of getting in our face so that if we think of a particular item, we think of this brand. Whereas generic items, they haven't spent a lot of money on those different ads and things like that. So they have passed those savings on to us as consumers. Their items are going to be a little less expensive. So not saying you have to switch your entire list over to generic, but try out a couple things and see how you like them and see if you notice a difference in how much you're spending when it comes to your shopping. So the other way to improve our cash flow is to try to increase our income. So there's different ways that we can do that. The first is to set long-term goals. And so that might look like, getting like some extra, like some certifications or something for that relate to your job so that you can maybe move into another position down the road or get a raise, something like that. It could look like, going back to school, to achieve like a long-term goal that would improve income. Another thing to do would be to evaluate your budget. So just, sit down and go through it line by line and see if there's, a way that we can kind of cut some of those expenses that would help improve our cash flow. Especially when it comes to subscription services. Those are super easy to sign up for, and they're also super easy to forget about. So those could be some expenses that we could cut that would help improve our cash flow. We can also look at selling something. So that might look like, selling something on Facebook Marketplace or, if you have like doing like a garage sale or something like that, we can make some extra income that way. Of course, be safe, be super careful whenever you're selling like, anything like online. But that can be helpful as well. It could also look like selling like a skill that you have. So, you could, if you have like a craft that you like to do, like that would be like doing something you enjoy, then you could also sell it, improve income that way as well. Or it could look like, renting out. If you have an extra room in your home, you could rent that out. Of course, be safe and careful with that as well. But it could also look like, doing different things like for neighbors. Like, so perhaps, doing like cutting grass or something and charging like a little bit for that, if maybe some of your neighbors don't have a lawnmower, so there's a lot of different scenarios when it comes to selling something. And then I know that getting like a second job or a side hustle is not possible for everybody. I'm not saying that that's an easy one, but if a person has the capacity to add a second job or side hustle, something like driving for Uber or running DoorDash or like I don't know, like dog sitting or dog walking or anything like that. If a person has the capacity to add something like that, then that of course could help with our income as well and improving our cash flow. And then the last one, asking for a raise, it doesn't hurt, right? The worst thing that'll happen is that they'll say no, but if that's a conversation you feel comfortable having at your place of employment, then that can help as well. All right, so we got into kind of this money beliefs and behaviors and looking at cash flow. Also knowing like we do have like these different spending cycles that we can fall into, is kind of recognizing those can help with all of this. And sometimes just different like life events happen that are impacting our cash flow and impacting our spending. And so when these kind of financial transitions take place, there are some different steps that we can take along the way. And first is just to assess, how long is this going to last? So is this like a life event or a transition that is temporary? So maybe it's just impacting our budget for a short period of time. We need to make some adjustments just to get through the next couple months. Or is this like a bigger transition, a bigger life event that is more permanent? And if that's the case, then on step two, we might need to create a new spending plan. So we might need to just kind of sit down and go line by line through all of our expenses and what we have and see like what we might need to adjust, right? So that we can make space for this new situation that we've like found ourselves in. And then number three is overcoming a deficit. So where can we cut costs or increase income? So going back to that cash flow piece. And know that help is available. There's a lot of resources out there, a lot of folks available to help us get through these different transitions and get through these different life events. And whatever it is, just know that there are a lot of resources. Quick Google search will help find a lot of different things, something like United Way, 211. So there is help available, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help when we need it. And then next one is prepare for the next transition. So once we have gone through whatever, this life event that is happening, once we kind of get through that, I feel like we got our feet under us and things are kind of in place, then we can start planning for, okay, is there another transition I know is coming up in the future, or just planning for a what if situation. So that could look like building up our emergency fund, getting that ready to help with any type of emergency expenses that could come up, assessing our goals, what are the things that we want to work towards. All right, so sometimes when it comes to like financial transitions or different life events, that happens. And debt can happen really, really easily and quickly. And it can also be super stressful. So the stress that comes from debt and different like money situations, that stress impacts every area of our life. It affects our mental well-being, our physical well-being. And so just knowing like the steps that we can take to tackle any kind of debt that might come up is going to help make things a little less stressful for us. And so the first step is just to get organized. So if we do have some debt that we are looking to pay back, then there are some different things that we want to gather as part of the organization process. So first you want to like make a list of any debt that you have, like any outstanding debt, whether it's credit cards, loans, medical bills, your mortgage, like literally everything that you have. And there's a few pieces of information that you want to gather. The first is to look up what is the total balance owed on every piece of debt? What is the interest rate on every piece of debt? What is the minimum payment that needs to be made on everything? And then, what kind of term are we looking at? So if it's a loan, like how much time is left, like on that loan term. And then the last thing that we want to look at as part of this organization process is to check how much space we have in our budget to put towards debt repayment. So, looking at our income, that's looking, at our cash flow. What do we have coming in? What expenses do we have going out? And then what do we have left to contribute to this debt repayment? And then we're going to pick a strategy. All right, so we have a couple different ones to go through with you. The first one is the snowball method. So with this debt repayment strategy, we are organizing all of our debt in order of the smallest balance owed to the largest balance owed. And what we'll do is we will make the minimum payments on everything. And then anything extra that we have to add to our debt repayment, we're going to put all of that towards the smallest balance owed first. And then that smallest balance owed, once that gets paid off, we cross it off the list. And then everything that was going towards that smallest balance will now get rolled down into the next one on our list. So this method can be really motivating, because if you're like me, I love to make a list and I love to check things off of my list. So if we're organizing it by smallest balance to largest balance, we're getting rid of the smallest balances owed first. So we're getting to check more stuff off of our list. And that can give us that kind of boost that we need to keep going. The next strategy is kind of similar. It's known as the avalanche method. The difference, though, is that with this strategy, we are organizing our debt in order of the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. And then same kind of strategy where we're making our minimum payments every month on every piece of debt, but then anything extra we have is going towards that top one that has the highest interest rate. As we pay that one off, cross it off the list, everything that's going to that one is now going to the next one on the list. And so with this strategy, because we are eliminating the debt with the highest interest rate first, we can actually save some money with this method over the snowball method. So because interest can add up, right? Interest can contribute to a lot of money. So if we're getting rid of that high interest rate debt first, then that can help save some money over time. Just know that this one, it might take a little bit more time, in the sense that it might take longer before we can cross something off of our list. So that, just know yourself, like know what motivates you. So if that would be like kind of frustrating, then, maybe snowball is for you. But if you're looking to like super focus, looking to like save money as much as possible, then this is a good one, because we're getting rid of that high interest rate debt first. The next one we have is consolidation. So consolidation means that we are taking out like another loan to pay off like a group of other loans. So kind of the most common form of consolidation would be like, let's say I have 5 credit cards. They all have a balance on them, but credit cards tend to have a higher interest rate, so I'm paying more interest for that debt. Whereas a personal loan would have a lower interest rate, so then I take out a personal loan to pay off all of my credit card debt, and then trying not to use my credit cards so I don't build up more debt. But having that one loan at a lower interest rate would save me money than paying on all the high interest rate credit cards, right? So I'm taking out one, consolidating everything else. And so with consolidation, like consolidate what makes sense. So if like part of your debt is a loan that already has a low interest rate, it might not make sense to consolidate it, right? So just consolidate what makes sense. Like I said, a lot of times that's going to look like taking out a loan to pay for credit cards, just because that interest rate is going to be less than credit card interest rate. All right, next option we have is a refinance or a modification. So kind of some differences between these two things. Refinancing, that means that we are like replacing an existing loan with a new loan. This is often done when interest rates drop and we can get a better interest rate on the new loan than what we previously had on our existing loan. So I will say I've done this before with a car loan a couple years ago in the past. The car loan I got through another institution. The interest rate was higher than I wanted it to be. And then I got approved to get a car loan with a different institution that had a lower interest rate. So I used that to pay off the one at the other institution. And then I was saving money by having that lower interest rate. So Refinancing is also good if you know that your credit is in a good place and you will get approved for that lower interest rate. So a modification, that is when you are keeping the same loan, but you are just making some adjustments to it. So that might look like having the same loan, but extending the term out. So maybe the loan is like, a 5-year term, but then you are adjusting it to a 7-year term, which would then lower the amount of your monthly payments. So if that's something that you are looking to do to help with that cash flow piece, then that can be helpful. Just know that anytime you extend a term out, you will end up paying more over the life of the loan in that interest, just because you have more years where that interest is going to be building up. All right. So, with all these different like debt repayment strategies that we have, a lot of these are ones that, if we feel like we are in control of what's going on and we can kind of make these different plans to pay things back, it can really help to get a financial coach involved. So we have financial coaching totally for free at INT. And they can sit down like one-on-one with you, look at your situation, see what debt repayment strategy might work best for you. But sometimes we feel like we don't have all the control, right? Sometimes things kind of build up, and if that happens, then there are other programs that are available to help. Don't feel like we always have to do everything on our own. So debt management and debt settlement programs are two other options that we have when we need some extra help. So with a debt management program, what happens is that I'm contacting a debt management program, and they are working with all of my credit, like everyone that I owe money to, they're working with them on my behalf. So a lot of times that looks like, they'll come up with different payment plans. A lot of times a debt management program can get lower interest rates on the different pieces of debt, depending on what it is and who they're working with. But then I pay just one amount every month to the debt management program. And then they are distributing that based on all of the payment plans that they've made with all these different creditors and the folks that I owe money to. So that can be really, really helpful, if that is an option that a person wants to explore. Just know that it may be an initial hit to your credit, just because it might look like closing out like some cards or closing out some different lines. And so that can be an initial hit to your credit, but because payments are being made every single month, if you attended our credit webinar, you know that payment history has the biggest impact on our credit score. So because payments are still being made every month, that's going to help build our credit back up. A debt settlement program is a little bit different. So with a debt settlement program, you will see these out there. With this one, you are working with another company as well, and they are talking to the creditors on your behalf. But what they are doing they are sending like cease and desist letters to the creditors, and they are not necessarily working out different payment plans on your behalf. They are trying to get the creditors to settle, so that you owe less money than what you originally owed them. So it might look like, let's say I owe a creditor $3,000. So then the debt settlement program, they reach out and say, I know she owes 3,000, but would you settle for 2,500? And they kind of go back and forth until the company finally settles on a lower amount. And then that is what you end up paying. A couple things to note is that this will harm your credit score because those monthly payments are not being made, right? So there's so much time is passing while these different negotiations are happening. So you will see a drop in your credit score. Also, if you end up settling and you pay less than what you originally owed, then that could look like taxable income when it comes time for tax, and could look like red flags on your credit report. So just some things that to be mindful of. But as I mentioned, sitting down with a financial coach is so helpful. It can really, they can look at your individual situation, see what you have going on, and they can help you come up with a plan, whether it's for debt repayment strategies or looking to build credit, make a budget, have savings goals, whatever it is, they are here to help. And again, it's totally free. So you can check out appointments by scanning that QR code. or go to int.com/coaching to set up those appointments either in person or virtual. All right, we are at our time. So if you pulled up Minty, you want to throw in some answers for our, kind of how confident you're feeling on these different items, please feel free to do that. But otherwise, that brings us to the end of our webinar for today. I appreciate y'all so much for joining this morning, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. And check us out at int.com/events to see what other webinars that we have coming up. All right. Hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.